Hey there, Pong Stars, and welcome to the Rathole. This is your host, Commissioner Zack Eichten, with, of course, our spectacular guest host, Drew Mahowald, owner of the Gruesome Grinders. Welcome, Drew.
It is a pleasure and an honor, as always, to join the Rathole. I can think of no better honor I've ever had in my life.
That seems right. That seems
Yes.
appropriate. It seems like it should be stated more by our guest hosts as we move through the rest of the season. I do expect that from the rest of you if you ever host the show with me.
Yeah, I mean that should be the minimum, statement, because the prestige and the the flair of the show, the awareness of the show out to the public. I mean, it's unmatched. I just don't see how, I can't think of a greater honor that any of us has experienced. I mean, not to say lowly things about us as a group of people, but I just, knowing everybody well enough, this is just one of those peak experiences that you get it. It's like a once in a lifetime thing, but we have the opportunity to do it more than once.
And really, when you think about it, like, this is the preeminent prestige show that covers the Pong Stars Fantasy Football League. Like, no other show even gets close to covering it.
Of course not. Of course not. Of course not. I mean, the competition is fierce, but at the end of the day, the Rathole is the number one source for all of your news analysis, takes, opinions, league news, NFL news. It's all there. It's all here, and you get it once a week from this source. It's honestly, it's unbelievable. That Commissioner Eichten, you put this together, but then also that I get to be a part of it. And
we're all lucky.
I have no words. I have no more words. Even though I just said lots of words, I have no words.
No further words on this.
Yes.
But we do have a different subject, and that, of course, is our Week 5 recap. Let's head on over into that Week 5 recap, Drew. And we'll start with the just like off the top. Put this in the group chat, obviously, but this is the highest total points across the league scored in Pong Stars Keeper era history.
Credit to us.
By a pretty significant margin as well.
This is me clapping. I don't know if this is actually heard on the audio or not, but
yeah, that's really good audio.
That's good radio. It's just really, someone clapping.
Really spectacular. This is actually the first time in the Keeper era during the regular season here where the threshold cross of 1,300 total points was met. This is nice. a pretty bombastic week. A lot of really close showdowns, especially with a really intense, high scoring Monday night game. It was really enjoyable and fun to watch here. And of course, the first matchup was the Gluten Freaks versus Worse Than Trash. Myself coming out on top, 134.7 to 127. I guess just right off the bat, thanks to the Browns defense for making Austin Ekeler score a touchdown. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's that came up clutch for you. I think so that kind of portion of the game where Ekeler, I think, did he score 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, or did he have 2 in the fourth and 1 earlier in the game? I can't remember exactly what that sequence was, but he came on strong at the end of that game. And then a big difference too was Josh Allen having a huge game, but virtually none of that being Diggs. So that was huge for that matchup. That swung the pendulum heavily in your favor.
Yeah. Just speaking frankly here, I wanted to beat Tony more than anyone else across my leagues this week. It does bring me a lot of joy.
That's fair.
Tony and I have actually a really
also Josh Allen revenge game, by the way.
Very much a Josh Allen revenge game. Tony and I now are 2-2 against each other in regular season. And I hold the edge in our one postseason matchup, 1-0. So it's a 3-2. It's a close rivalry between Tony and I, and very few people rival how much I like to beat Tony. I was playing against Jamie's dad, where I needed Dawson Knox to outscore Tyreek Hill to win.
Wait, did that happen? It must have.
It did happen. I ended up winning that matchup by 0.5 points, which he wants to beat me as badly as I want to beat Tony. So it was an all around great night for me with Dawson Knox going off as well. But Josh Allen revenge game, oh, spectacular.
Yeah, the Josh Allen revenge game. That's a narrative that many people didn't see or talk about going in, but he was let go, a very disrespectful cut by Tony Townsend for Drew Brees, an aging old vet that at the time and still to this day probably can't throw the ball more than 35 yards. And then you have Josh Allen who can double that up. So,
yeah,
I'm sure Josh Allen, the performance he had last year was probably fueled by Tony's decision, and it had some great ramifications throughout the league, all the way through week 16, the championship game. I can test from personal experience.
Yeah. And what really comes down to the difference in this game here was quarterback to receiver crossplay. As you mentioned, Josh Allen having an absolute day.
Then Bobby Woods
too. And not throwing to Stephon Diggs, but then also Bob Trees catching everything that Matt Stafford threw his way, basically. And Matt Stafford not getting much off of him.
Which it's interesting because I think there was some comments made that were there. It was either reported that Woods had said something to his team, or he maybe said them publicly, but he was like, I need more targets. And so the Rams very much fulfilled that wish and just force fed him the ball.
It's always great to get 21 points without a touchdown.
Right.
You know that they're definitely trying to make a difference there. I think it was very obvious to me watching that game that a lot more coverage is going to get thrown at Cooper Kupp right now, at least over the next couple of games, it seems, to account for how crazy he played in those first couple of weeks. And Bob Trees managed to make it.
And the thing is, Kupp still ended up with like 7 catches for 92 yards or something like that. So credit to him. I mean, there's so much talk about this whole deal that Stafford and Cooper Kupp get breakfast every day together and they have such a buddy relationship. And so I think, maybe as a strategy for the Rams, they're like, you know what, we need to straighten this out a little bit. We needed to get Woods the ball. That way, like you said, the coverage isn't so heavily plastered onto Cooper Kupp.
Yeah. And I will say that, Tony's team actually performed very well too. 127 points, nothing to shake your head at. I'm especially impressed by Najee Harris and just the clear dominance that he has been having. Right now, he's running back 4 in PPR formats. And the fact that Tony ever considered trading away that first round pick is baffling to me. But guess he ended up making the right decision there.
I mean, if you find a running back that gets as many touches as Najee Harris is, there's a handful of them in the league, and those guys are valuable just because of the opportunities they get. Harris is one of them. Dalvin Cook is one of them when he's healthy. McCaffrey is one of them. Derrick Henry is one of them. And the list gets quite a bit shorter after that. Eckler is probably one of them now, where they're getting 20 plus at a minimum every week. So when Harris has joined that group, that makes him really effective.
Yeah, it's definitely awesome to see. Tough blow for Tony right now with just his injury report of Clyde. He hasn't been playing Clyde as much this year, but still going on IR. That is tough to see. Wish him all the best. But we should probably move on here to our next matchup, which is yours, the Lock Plopses versus the Gruesome Grinders. Gruesome Grinders taking the win narrowly over the Lock Plops.
Narrowly. This thing got a little this got interesting a little bit there. It appeared that I had a pretty clear advantage going into that Sunday night game.
Yeah.
But it was just it was shaky. We had Mahomes turnovers that suddenly gave the lead back to John, and the Chiefs just weren't moving the ball very well. And so it turned into a sloppy fest and when this happens, Mahomes gets very antsy and way more prone to turnovers. So it was scary. I kind of feel like I got away with one a little bit there. In a way, it was kind of like, it was like I should have won this a lot more handily than I did because of all the touchdowns I had Sunday afternoon. But then things slowed down quite a bit during that game.
Yeah, it definitely, I think you're being absolutely propped up right now by Derrick Henry and his whole business of being the number 1 running back this year, again, getting 31 points, highest scoring running back in week 5. And then actually just hate to say it, but Alexander Madison coming out strong, getting 25 carries, even though, both of us were at that Lions game. wasn't. I mean, I think the play calling worked for Madison. Didn't really work for having an exciting or good game.
No.
But getting
Well, that's what the Vikings do
carries
to a
and
fault. That's
yeah.
what the Vikings do to a fault. They give their running back the ball 30 times, which I don't necessarily agree with that philosophy in general. But for fantasy, I knew was happening, and that's why I'm so keen on keeping Madison around. Is just Dalvin's not he's injury prone, to be quite frank, and so when you can count on him to miss a few games a year, and that's when Madison shows up and puts up 20 points.
Yeah, and it definitely worked for you this week. I'm of course feeling for John a little bit here. Definitely a tough blow for him to not be able to eke out a win with 143 points. But I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed by his team. I am a little bit wondering why he's not playing Kareem Hunt more. He hasn't scored under 15 points in 4 of his 5 games.
That's actually wild. I didn't even realize he was putting up that kind of production.
Yeah.
The Browns use those running backs so much, man.
It is
wild.
He's getting targets. He's only on the field, 44% of the time, but it's doesn't matter. He's making the most of it, and he is getting some pretty high yards per carry right now. So I'm kind of shocked by that. If he had put Kareem in instead of Deontay Johnson.
Yeah. Also tough that Prison Mike, we have the whole trade and we got some revenge games going on here. And John doesn't start Prison Mike in his revenge game against the Gruesome Grinders after the Gruesome Grinders traded him. That's a big mistake, a big blunder by John to not realize what was at stake here. I know the 1.6 point performance the previous week probably scared him away, but with that, the revenge game narrative there, you got to play. And like, even if you look at my team, I got AB in that trade, 28 points for AB in his revenge game against the Lock Plopstas. Now I didn't end up needing those points, but it's just one of those where when the revenge game happens, you got to play your guys because they show out against their former teams. And I'm talking about the fantasy football teams, not about their real teams. Of course.
No, they don't care about that. It's all about fantasy football teams.
Right.
I want to point out one thing before we move on here, and it is that on your bench, you have a guy with a green mark next to him for scoring 1.3 points because he outperformed his 0.39 point projection.
Is that what that means? I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So good for Jarrett Patterson. Good work. He was projected for 0.39, got 1.3. That's almost 3 times as much as he was projected. Dang, good on that guy.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? It's just a handcuff situation. I'm crazy about my handcuffs.
Definitely the handcuff.
It's for sure. I got to plan ahead. Got to have the guy ready.
Let's move on here to game number 3, which is Randy's Donuts versus Jack's on, Jack's off. Finally, a game from Noel that he can be proud of here, led, of course, by sophomore quarterback Justin Herbert.
Yeah. I mean, we hear all this stuff from Noel, like, oh, my team sucks. I'm going to tank for next year and blah, blah, blah. He's had a really good roster this whole time. That's not a secret. If you've been, paying attention, Noel's team is a force to be reckoned with. And it showed out finally this week. He was kind of very due for something like this. Kyle Pitts was due for a big game. That finally happened. The Jonathan Taylor explosion was kind of crazy on Monday night, but Metcalf is due for a couple of touchdowns, and you're getting 30 touches from your running back as a Panther, for Chua Hubbard there. That's to be expected when you get the ball 30 times. So this is, I'm not surprised by this, to be quite honest with you. And of course, if you get Chargers in a shootout, Herbert's going to put up numbers. So it just sucks for Josh to run into the buzzsaw like that.
Yeah, definitely tough for Josh, especially when, his front 3 here, Lamar, Zeke, and James Robinson, are putting up fantastic numbers. Lamar getting 41.88 points, just having an absolute day. He could have, if he's able to get that knee down and not fumble that ball right by the goal line there, he's outscoring Herbie And
Mhm.
it was a fun game to watch Lamar play in. I've said this every week over the last 3 weeks here, but turns out when you give James Robinson enough touches, he plays like a good running back. Who would have
I
thought?
the Jags drafting a running back this year, dumbest thing I've ever seen in the first round. I
Yeah,
mean, they just saw James Robinson come from undrafted to what he finished in the rushing last year, like top 10 at least, probably higher than that. And then to go out and get a running back like they need one when could use that pick to bolster other spots, baffling. But that's why Urban Meyer was a dumb hire to begin with, and then of course we know what else is going on there.
yeah. Not the head coach I thought was gonna keep his job this week. I definitely thought he was gonna be on the block, but here we are in a different situation.
Yes,
But
yes.
yeah, Josh, you're doing your best out there, man. Keep it up. You beat a lot of other teams. That you didn't beat the league median this week. That was 130 points, which is baffling and bonkers. But great score, and get out there, get him next week. I'm sure you'll have a better one. Let's move on over to game number 4 here, which is our closest match of the week of the Imposters winning over the Google team names. The Imposters moving to 4-1 on the year so far.
Yeah, you want to talk about grit? The Imposters have some grit.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I mean, you get 0.9 of the Saquon Barkley and only 9.08 from Russell Wilson, and you still come out with a win. That's some impressive stuff there. So credit to Lucas, and credit, I will say, big time pickup. Bills defense.
Yes.
The past couple of weeks now have been huge for him. I believe over 40 points combined the last 2 weeks, and putting up 17 against the Chiefs is something to take note of. So big pickup there. And of course, Patterson, Cordero Patterson emerging as a fantasy superstar. Not even in a game where he didn't score a touchdown, still putting up 15 points. Scordero is what a move by Lucas to grab him.
Yeah, that is impressive and incredible. I'm so happy for Lucas on that pickup there. Keeper confirmed, obviously, for Scordero right now. But I do want to just point out that as of right now, Lucas has surpassed his total number of regular season wins from the 2020 season, moving to 4-1 this year.
There you go. Congrats to Lucas and Imposters. That's a remarkable achievement, but I know that he and his team are itching to get more accomplishments the rest of the season here.
Absolutely. And then as far as Sammer's team goes, it's really tough when your star quarterback, who was number 2 going into the week, puts up 13 points. Even one more, he fumbled twice. Kyler Murray fumbles twice. If he is able to hold on one of those, that's a win for Sammer. Definitely tough, especially with Fournette and Kamara putting up big numbers. It's just tough to watch. And there's not really much that Sam can do. Maybe get rid of Dallas Goedert, who's not been playing well this year. He's on the COVID list. I don't think that Sammer needs to pick him back up after this drop that he's going to have to do to fill that position for Thursday night.
I think one of the disappointing things, a couple of things. So Calvin Ridley has been supremely disappointing based on expectations, but also T. Higgins is kind of already falling back into the shadow with Jamar Chase being there in Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
And so those two keepers for him have kind of really not worked out, which is kind of at the root of his team sort of falling back to earth a little bit. Kamara had a good game, but at the end of the day, that you're going to, based on the way his receivers are trending right now, you're going to have to get 30 from Murray and probably another 26 from Kamara to have a chance every week.
Yeah. And, I will say a one bright spot on this team is Leonard Fournette being able to get some pretty good points over the last couple of weeks. It seems like he's sort of taken control as the lead back, boxing out Rojo and Giovanni Bernard down in Tampa Bay. So that's a bright spot. But we'll just have to see as it moves on if Sammer's able to right the ship. Sam started really hot last year and fizzled out. This year, it's a little bit more of a struggle for the names, but I think he's got a good opportunity to right the ship in week 6 here. Let's move over to our game of the week of last week, which was the Spring Chickens versus the Dog Sniffers. Obviously, a tough matchup for these guys. When we look at Brennan and Thomas historically, really close matchup going into last week. They were 7-7 in regular season overall. Brennan held a little bit of a advantage in postseason wins, but it's always a shootout between these two teams. And Thomas able to absolutely obliterate the Chickens this week.
So Mark Andrews getting 36 out of nowhere kind of makes this a little bit more of a stark blowout than I think we kind of saw it as the whole week.
For sure.
Which was, good for Mark Andrews. It's kind of unfortunate in a way that, we get all this production, that Thomas gets all his production from Andrews when he doesn't really need it.
When he had already won going into Monday night.
Right. But the big red flag here, man, is Trey Sermon for the Spring Chickens. The start at running back for Swan here, getting a grand total of 1 carry in the game for 7 yards. That's 0.7 points for those counting at home. Not a great performance, especially when Miles Gaskin is on the bench with 10 receptions for 74 yards and 2 touchdowns. Swan did have Hollywood Brown on the bench, 29 points. Also, Chase Claypool on the bench, 21.5 points, leaving a lot of points to be desired on that bench. Oof is all I have to say.
That was probably the toughest part of all of this. Brennan's max possible points, his highest total max possible points on the season so far at 156.98. And that's a tough one to get. It actually, I believe
it's a tough pill to swallow.
Dropped Brennan all the way down into last place for percentage achieved of possible points this season.
That is a shame.
Yes. Definitely tough for him. Definitely it was a good matchup for the Dog Sniffers. I am a little concerned, I will say, on this team, that currently the entire running back production of this team is coming from Arizona. Starting both Edmonds and Connor is a bit of a red flag on the longevity of this situation. But with Tampa Tom in there, each week is going to still be a potential win there.
Yeah. I in a way, I think that raises your floor, right? Because you're not going to have, I guess that kind of was a dreadful performance overall when you think about it. You get 12 points out of your running backs, not going to win most of the time. I don't know. I was a big Chase Edmonds guy. I still am a big Chase Edmonds guy, but it doesn't mirror what Cleveland's doing with Chubb and Hunt. It's not like they're going out there in their game plan trying to force feed the ball to James Conner and Chase Edmonds. They have, a slew of weapons on the outside that they get the ball to instead. So we'll see. Maybe Thomas will be in the market for a trade with a running back. I know there's not a ton of running backs out there to be had, but it's just when you have Miles Sanders and Rojo underperforming the way they have, it puts you in a tough spot.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, at what point is Rojo going to be on the waiver wire here? I think
the time is coming.
The time is certainly coming. He has not scored more than 8.5 points in any week so far. And he has never had more than 7 carries or never more than 6 carries in a game.
That's time to cut bait.
Yeah, that's tough to see. And definitely Thomas might be time to move on there. Here, there's a lot of Houston running backs on the waiver wire.
Yep. David Johnson's getting 6 touches a week.
Yep.
There you go.
Absolutely. Same level of production. But let's move on over here to, of course, our favorite segment, the fun fact of the week.
Ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum. but that something like that. I don't know.
It was definitely that. That was it for sure. All right, this fun fact is being brought to us by the current standings in the Sleeper app here. It's a very enjoyable fun fact for 9 teams here. 9 out of 10 teams currently have more maximum points for than points against. So in theory, every team setting a perfect lineup could have done 5-0 against all their teams here. That does leave one team that does not have more maximum points for than points against. It is our team who has the most amount of points against, but also one of the lower amounts of maximum points for, and that is the Spring Chickens and Brendan Swan. Brendan Swan's maximum points for this year being 659.46. And the points against he's had to face so far this year, 678.84 points. So definitely has been a very tough schedule for the Chickens. And as we mentioned, lowest amount of total percentage of maximum points for achieved, which does drop Brennan into our lowest points for in the league at 529.12 this year.
So I would feel bad for Swan with the schedule and the points against, but when you're last in the league in points, then I don't really feel bad. So
yeah, Brennan,
and he has. I mean, I know the injuries are there. He's got the Carson injury, he's got Dalvin injury, and eventually traded Dalvin. But that's fantasy football. You're going to have injuries. It's about having the right replacements and the right guys after that. And he hasn't so far this season.
Brennan has had the worst storm right now of a simultaneous lowest points for and highest points against.
I mean, that's a shame. That's something you just hate to see.
Yeah, you can't really control your points against. You can't control those points for though, but in Brennan's case, even that wouldn't have saved him from his woes this year. So, Brennan, I know it's tough out there right now, boss, but play some better defense, I guess.
Right.
But
he's not listening to this anyway, so we can roast the crap out of him if we want.
That's true. There's no way Brennan ever listens to this program. He'll put into the chat this week that he actually did watch. I don't know. Should there be a code word?
Code word is LaDainian Tomlinson.
Yeah. All right. That's good. Brennan, put LaDainian Tomlinson into the group chat if you have listened to this episode here. But all right, let's get over to our next segment here, which oh, what is that? That's a haunted doll watch. Drew Mahowald. All right, it is time for our favorite segment here at Pong Star Studios on the Rathole, which is the haunted doll watch, where we take a look at the latest and greatest in haunted dolls out on the eBay machine. And just to try to convince our listeners to buy them and try to participate in them. I accidentally zoomed in on a picture on my second screen and it spooked me real bad just now. But this one is, of course, Haunted Doll, the Spirit of Louise.
Okay.
Which is intriguing. A 14-inch porcelain doll. And here we go into the description. Drew, I'm going to send you a link to this listing so that you can participate with me.
I would love to.
Just to describe Louise here. Louise is a 14-inch porcelain doll that has eyes that will stare into your soul and never stop looking. They are haunting me right now on my screen. Very human eyes.
Those are actually remarkably human eyes.
Yeah. It's difficult to look at. Remarkably human. Extremely white as well. Just like the whole doll is extremely white here. But here's the description for anyone who's interested in Louise from the seller. Thank you for looking at my auction. I don't attempt to say I'm an expert in the paranormal. There's so much to experience and time included in this activity. I've been on many haunted and paranormal searches with people that I consider much more experienced than me. Some of the experiences I've encountered have been false, while others have been an exciting adventure to be in the same space with a new spirit. I've collected many things from these places. I believe spirits can attach themselves to tangible items for all kinds of reasons, but some of them can be false. This is Louise. She is only 3 years old and likes to babble. Sometimes I understand and sometimes I don't. It's just going to take some time to communicate with her. If you have time to work with her, I sure she will be wonderful. That's in quotes.
That's a typo. There's multiple typos as I'm reading this, by the way, but I'm not going to interrupt you. So
yeah, she has indicated that her blood was bad, but she is no longer in any pain. Spooky. She's looking for someone to love her and give her loving home. When I say she babbles, it is like this, quote, "What is your name?" Answer Louise, Lou, Lou, Lou. Maybe they call her Lou. That's my best guess.
Wow.
I do hope someone feels a connection to her. I would feel much better if I knew she was. I would feel much better if I knew she was going to a home and someone wanted to take care of her. At this time, I cannot ship outside the continental USA. And
okay, I don't think that part is. I think that part's done. So Louise sounds like a character. The whole babbling thing is interesting because if I'm going to be grabbing or purchasing a doll that I could communicate with, I would like to communicate very clearly with that doll instead of the babbling piece. So not a good sales pitch from this person in the description. I would want to, if I'm going to communicate with a spirit, right?
Of course.
I want to be able to understand. Like communication is a two-way street here. Like it's one thing to just babble, but then it's not actually communication if I'm not understanding the message. So, great. You have a doll that is a spirit and can say, make a phrase or babble, as you say, but I'm not that happy for you because I have no interest in a doll that doesn't actually talk. It just makes noise, supposedly.
Yeah, allegedly. The eyes are haunting. I have to say that I feel like I can feel the spirit of Louise
watching you right now.
Watching you right now. Like if I were to turn around, these eyes would just be like peeking through the doorway. Like that's how I feel about these eyes.
Do you think those are real human eyes? And they're just like,
do
you think it's possible that those are eyes of a real Louise person that were implanted into a doll to see the world still?
It's certainly Louise had bad blood. We know this. This is factual.
Yes.
So like in theory, the eyes are the doorways to the soul. So moving the doorway to the soul to a new host figurine, in theory, the soul should move with it. And there's no bad blood in this doll because there's
no blood at all. Yeah. This is all makes completely perfect logical sense. So
I think so as well. I think that somebody should definitely buy Louise. There is at the time of recording only 16 hours and 16 minutes to.
Okay. So, I'm thinking ahead here. When people are able to listen to this, there will be just a few hours left. So the time is now to strike and purchase Louise for yourself to experience the spirit of it's just a babbling communication that you will not be able to understand very much.
Maybe they called her Lou, and that's really I hope that someone gets a connection, and the seller would fee much better if they knew that she
would fee much better. Yes,
a good home. So consider buying Louise, everybody. Only 22 American dollars currently on eBay. All right, that was Louise. Definitely go purchase her on eBay. But let's move over to our next segment here, which is Drew and I are going to look at the draft results of the first 3 rounds of the Pong Stars Fantasy Football Draft. and just do a quick check-in on who is currently the biggest bust and best player of each of the first 3 rounds of this draft here. And going my pick for biggest bust of the first round, 106, Myles Gaskin.
So
I'm not counting Gus because he
Okay.
got busted.
I just wanted to clarify because Gus Edwards did not play a snap this year. So that was my pick. That would in a way be a bust. But yeah, I think Gaskin out of the picks in the first round. Now,
although Miles Sanders also got picked in the first round.
Yeah. And so Gaskin at least just put up 26. He had the 2 touchdowns, the big receiving game. I think I'm leaning Sanders here out of those 2. But either way, it is one of those running backs, and I don't think there's really a potential other option there.
No, for sure.
And then I think the best pick to me is Cooper Kupp, and I don't think it's close. I think Najee. I'm not really going to consider Najee because that was kind of the no-brainer pick. But I think taking Kupp there when he could have potentially slipped into the second round, it's a big pickup for Josh. So that's my favorite pick in round 1.
Yeah, I was going to say Cooper Kupp as well. If I couldn't say Harris, the fact that Tony was even considering not taking Harris, as I said earlier, baffles me. But Cooper Kupp at 107 has been an absolute steal for Josh, and I'm very jealous. Although if I had Cooper Kupp, I would have lost in this last week. So maybe it turned out okay. So that's speculation. All right, second round though. The biggest bust of the second round to me has got to be Mike Davis. Mike Davis has been completely overtaken by Scordero, and it's a real shame because he did do so well in Carolina, and just not the same level.
So Josh has 2 really bad picks in the second round. Mike Davis and Noah Fant.
Yeah.
Neither one has gone particularly well. I also don't like Michael Thomas in the second round because we don't know if he'll play again. So that seems like it was too risky to make or too risky of a move to make, already knowing that his situation was going to take a drastic drop off with no longer no Drew Brees there anymore. I think Noel's pick of Justin Herbert and then also his pick of Kareem Hunt right before that, probably the 2 best picks of the second round. Although he did end up trading Hunt to John. I'm
going to throw in an honorable mention for DJ Moore though. In the second round, DJ Moore was a first round pick to the Gluten Freaks last year, ended up getting traded for Julio. It's a whole thing.
That's a whole thing.
That's a whole thing. But DJ Moore has, up until this last week, has had massive success for Sammer and the Google team names. I'm gonna throw him up there for consideration for best pick of the second round at the 210 position. All right, going in the third round here though. This is where it gets tough. I think there's a lot of options for the worst pick right now. I mean, if we're excluding injuries issues, so I'll exclude Raheem Mostert from consideration.
Yeah, I think it's Odell Beckham.
It has to be Odell Beckham or Trey Sermon, one of those 2.
Yeah, I mean, he got a single carry this week. Sermon did, and Odell Beckham was on an offense that scored 42 points, and he had like 3 catches. So maybe not even that. So that's not a good look. Odell Beckham is being phased out of the offense, and which a Browns offense that is very good and efficient. So don't like that. But I think the number one or the best pick is undoubtedly Jamar Chase in that third round.
Absolutely.
So Tony's, I mean, his strategy has always been to grab, these rookies, these young guys, and then when they become studs, kind of take advantage of that. And you're seeing that on his team now. Najee, Justin Jefferson last year, trying to get these guys on his squad. And I think with Chase and with Jefferson, you have 2 guys that are going to be really good players for a while.
Yeah, I know we've talked about Tony's team a lot on this program. But Najee, Swift, Harris, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase and now Mike Evans being the top guys on this team. Like, I don't know if this is what anyone was. I mean, I was kind of expecting this to happen eventually with Clyde not being a keeper, but right now it's not even close to Clyde being a keeper. The obvious first pick of the 2020.
Well, I think Clyde's just a general disappointment. Does not need to be does not need to be a keeper right now. I don't think he will be.
No, certainly not looking at Tony's team. But yeah, that's just the quick 5-week check-in here. We'll check back in a couple weeks and see where we stand, because some of these guys might explode or fall off the cliff, and we'll see what happens then. But let's move over to our week 6 previews. And this is really exciting one here. Let's start off with the Gluten Freaks versus the Dog Sniffers. Former roommates, Thomas and Zack here, in a tough matchup upcoming in week 6. Historically, Zack has had the edge in against Thomas, 7-3 wins. This is actually my highest win percentage opponent against Thomas, is 70% win percentage. And also, this is just a bonus fun fact: I've never faced off against Thomas in the playoffs at all, despite being in the league for 7 years now. Both of us. That's just a fun fact for you. But
wow,
who's your player to watch on both these teams?
Players to watch for Thomas is just the Cardinals backfield against the Browns. I have a hard time believing both will produce to double digits this week. That's a tough matchup as it is. And then combined with the fact that they're splitting time with each other, just don't love that. I think the other side for the Gluten Freaks is Dalvin Cook going to play. I mean, there's still the question marks there. You kind of want to see him back. I could see the possibility of the Vikings with the bye week next week saying, well, maybe a rest one more week, you get the bye week in, and then kind of full go for him after that. But otherwise, looking at the depth chart, I don't love the other options at running back that you have to replace Dalvin with this week. You have Prison Mike on bye. J.D. McKissick is a scat back type for Washington, and Darrell Williams will get a large share with the Chiefs, but we know how the Chiefs use their running backs. Clyde has not been super productive anyway. So that could be, if things go wrong elsewhere, that could be a problematic piece for you.
Yeah, totally agree with that. I think that's exactly the hole that I was worried about with Dalvin still being injured when I made that trade. However, I will say I'm not going to play Cam Akers or Trey Sermon in that trade, so I would still be in that.
Correct.
Still be in that issue, even if I hadn't made that trade. So my guy to watch is going to be Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler has been absolutely fantastic. Number 2 running back this year.
I'd imagine trading him away.
Imagine trading Cooper Kupp and Austin Eckler for Tyler Lockett and Kenyon Drake.
Yeah, that would be a tough scene. That would be a tough scene.
Yeah.
But hypothetically,
we'll just have to see if he can keep up the production here. He's scored over 18 in the last 4 weeks. But up against the Baltimore defense, Baltimore did let up 30 points to Jonathan Taylor. So I'm feeling pretty good about that, but we'll have to see if he can manage it. For the Dog Sniffers, I think the biggest question for me is who is going to fill the spot of Deebo Samuel, who's on bye. And is that going to be Allen Robinson against Green Bay, which that seems like a disaster? Is it going to be KJ Osborne, third receiver for Minnesota? Is it going to be Cole Beasley, third receiver for Buffalo? I don't know what's going to happen there in that receiver slot, but that's the position to watch for me.
Yeah, that's a curious one. I am very intrigued as to what that decision will be.
Yeah, Thomas, I think, and not to be mean, has some of the biggest depth problems in the league this year.
There's some firepower, but then it gets pretty ugly after basically Brady, Keenan Allen, and Kelsey. Andrews is borderline. After that, there's not a lot there.
150 points though last week, so who knows?
That's true. Why am I? That's a lot of
possible.
It's a lot of talk for a team that was outscored by the Dog Sniffers last week. So
that's true. All of us were. except for Noel. Let's go over to your matchup then. The Gruesome Grinders versus the Imposters. GG's and the Kukak here, both at 4-1, are number 1 and 2 teams in the standings. One of you will fall. It's going to be interesting. I think I know who it will be, just based off of Glass Bones and Paper Skin peeking their head out from behind the Imposters and making their resurgence with all of the issues that Lucas has had over the last week.
Yeah, one thing that I think wasn't even mentioned this whole time was Adam Thielen is now on the injury report again. So it's just there. It's been a tough go for Lucas the past few years here. For him, let's see here. Yeah, I think Devontae Booker. I see you look when you watch him, it's like just like the most basic store brand version of Saquon.
Yeah.
And so can he be productive? Matchup's not great playing against the Rams. Also, your quarterback is Mike Glennon, and also your receivers aren't really there because I think Tony got hurt, or Kadarius Toney got hurt. You already had 3 guys that were hurt at receiver. The Giants' offense is basically the St. John's Johnnies. So I don't think he'll be productive, but if he can somehow be, I think that's where this matchup gets interesting.
Yeah. I got to watch over here for Lucas's team is Dawson Knox. This guy has been electric so far. He's scored over 18 points the last 2 weeks. And it's just going to be a question of how much they have to throw the ball against Tennessee. I'm guessing not as much as they had to against Kansas City, and we'll have to see if Dawson Knox can keep up with that production.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's one of the things I'm noting too, especially as I get Diggs on my team, is like, I guess that'll be my player to watch then, because like the targets, I'm kind of buying low there where he's sort of not been phased out, but he's not getting the targets he used to. So seeing if he can get back more involved like he was last year, seeing how that affects Knox as well.
Yeah. And honestly, for me, this is kind of shocking. The guy that I'm watching closest is Patrick Mahomes. He had to throw a ton, but he against Buffalo, and still he had 54 passing attempts and still only had 18.98 points. That was a really frustrating game for him. A lot of turnovers there, but a bounce back here. I think that if Patrick Mahomes is able to hit his projections, this game is going to be locked away pretty quick. But if he has another frustrating game, who's to say?
Mm-hmm. Who's to say? Who's to say?
Not me, for sure. Let's move over to our next matchup here. The Lock Plopstas versus Jacks on, Jacks off. Both of them coming off some tough losses last week. The Plopsters at 2-3, Jacks on, Jacks off at 3-2. Historically, John has had 100% success rate playing against Josh. 3-0.
Something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and this seems like it should be a Lock Plopstas lock in at this point.
You would think so, right? Looking at this matchup here, I do see some favorable ones for Polingo and Jacks on, Jacks off. I think that Ravens Chargers game could be lots of points involved, which I think benefits Lamar Jackson. You have James Robinson against Miami. You have Cooper Kupp against the Giants. You have Noah Fant against the Raiders. I like the matchups on that side a little bit better than I do the matchups for John. The player I'm watching for Josh is going to be Noah Fant. What can he do at that tight end spot? I feel like he's going to get production everywhere else, but that tight end spot could be the difference because the other side is Darren Waller. And so really the tight end matchup on both sides is kind of what I'm looking for, because Waller's targets have dropped significantly. So seeing how much of the offense will be dedicated towards Waller moving forward here too.
Yeah, and Noah Fant has had sort of a back and forth between scoring over 10 and under 10. Last week was an under 10 performance. So in theory, if the pattern holds, should be over 10 points for Noah Fant. And Waller's my guy to watch over here on John's team as well, actually, because, we got a coaching shakeup over in Las Vegas, and who knows what that's going to do to the play calling and who's going to get more touches moving forward. Waller's obviously a huge piece of that offense, but different coaches have different styles, as we well know, being Minnesota fans. So play calling matters.
Correct. Yes, correct.
Prison Mike also in the lineup though. Again,
there you go.
Over under 1.7. Now he's in the lineup, guaranteed.
I would take joy in watching Prison Mike have another clunker. It would be
well outside.
It would be a shame. It would be a shame, and I would hate to see it for John, but I would take joy in that as well, just with the trade, because I did not like trading away. I think the number 2 receiver or something in fantasy, but
yeah, had to do what you had to do though, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving over to the Google team names versus worse than trash. Both of these teams are 2-3. Both lost some close matchups last week here. Man, this is
Sam's team is kind of falling apart at the seams here a little bit. No Kamara this week, which is going to be huge. Can he get any production out of the running back spots, particularly Javonte? And kind of can the Broncos figure out that he's the better back and kind of give him the ball a little bit more? That's the guy to watch on his team for me. For Tony, Prison Mike making his debut. Looks like he's got him in that flex spot. Thursday night game. He's produced a lot this year already, which was kind of surprising to me even. Can he keep that up in a very loaded Bucs offense?
Yeah, I think those are two great players to watch here. For Tony, I'm watching TJ Hawkinson, who has been – he started off really strong. He had a 21-point game. He had a 16-point game the week after, and then hasn't cleared 6.2 in the last 3 games. He's got a little bit of a knee issue, and ultimately that's the guy I'm going to watch. He's a big playmaker when he's healthy, but if he's now not getting the touches, he's only getting 2 or 3 targets. It's really hard to make an impact in the game, especially as a tight end. So that's going to be the guy to watch for Tony here. For Sammer here, it's going to be what he does with this flex position. Michael Pittman in currently playing against Houston, but Sammer traded for Josh Jacobs in the offseason here, who's sitting right there on that bench.
You know why he's not playing him? 100% why he's not playing him. He's playing the Broncos.
Yeah.
Yep. That's exactly it.
All right, I'm gonna take it back here. I guess the player to watch is Harrison Butker. Maybe
there you go.
More field goals if Mahomes is still in the set.
If Sam had Mahomes and he would play at the Broncos, he wouldn't start Mahomes.
I feel like that's accurate.
Honestly, I don't know. Maybe Sam can answer. Can tell us in the group text tomorrow. Are you not playing Josh Jacobs because he's playing the Broncos? Is it a rooting thing, or is it because the Broncos defense is actually good? I would like to know the strategy behind that.
There's no way of knowing for sure, but I feel like you're right. But let's get over to our game of the week here, which is Randy's Donuts versus the Spring Chickens. I do question the game of the week here, just because of the mismatch that we have on paper here. Well, yes, I understand why you might question this being the game of the week. However, if we take a look at the trophy case right now, the big man traveling trophy between Noel Tigan and Brennan Swan is up for grabs. And if Brennan wins, of course, it's getting changed to the big boy trophy,
of course.
But currently the big man, where he blew out the Spring Chickens 108.8 to 59.92 last year in week 7 during the 2020 season. Absolute
shootout.
It was definitely a tough showing from the Chickens. So I think Brendan.
Do we have the numbers on what the points were that week? Is that something we can find?
absolutely we can see where the points were.
I need to see who led the way for the vaunted spring chickens that week.
The spring chickens, week 7 of 2020. It was a really high scoring week, obviously, for the chickens here. Oh my God, I forgot how bad this was. Oh my. All right. So total 59.92 points in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Quarterback Russell Wilson, recently acquired right before he gets traded away, I should say. 29.92 points of the 59 points.
Wait. So that means the rest of the squad averaged like 5.
Less than that here. Jared Cook comes in at number 2 on this team with 10.7.
So
that is
so we're left with 20 points.
Roughly. Not even that much, honestly. Coming in at the 3rd position on this team that week was defense, New England, with 7.
So the running backs and receivers.
Coming in flex was Prison Mike Evans at 4.7. Chris Carson at 4.6. Graham Gano at 3 points. Then we still have a running back and 2 receivers to get to, where we have CeeDee Lamb coming in at the top of those 3 with 0.1. Odell Beckham coming in number 2 of that trio with 0. And Jerick McKinnon coming in last of the trio with negative 0.1.
Well, you know what?
It's not the lowest score we've ever had in this league.
No.
But I'm sure Brennan
it's probably the lowest combination of points scored from your running backs and wide receivers. Has to be.
It's probably close. Of the starting 4, if we're taking flex out, the total pointage was 4.6 of the starting 4 skill positions.
Oof, Swan. Oof.
Yeah, that's
a bigger oof than me starting Kendall Hinton last year at the flex when he was a quarterback and got scoring negative 2.8 to lose me the regular season points title by 2 points. Do you remember that?
That's what you get for that. I do want to remind everyone that as bad as that score was for Brennan of 59.92, that was actually not his lowest score of the year. He scored 52.98 the week prior.
Was there a head coach firing in between there with those 2 bad weeks? That calls for jobs to be lost.
An adjustment. I will say there was adjustments made, just didn't matter. It just really didn't matter. Oh man, tough.
That was fun. That was a fun look back.
That was a fun memory lane. But that's why we have, of course, the Big Man Trophy is up for grabs. Again, this is a potential revenge game for Brennan. And the guy I'm watching here on Brennan's team, man, it's got to be Kilometers Gaskin up against Jacksonville in the starting lineup this week.
Not making that mistake again.
26-point week.
Yeah, he's not making that mistake again. He's putting Gaskin in. Good luck. Jacksonville's defense, you should be able to get some points on from your running back there. So I do agree with that take, actually, keeping Gaskin there. One thing that's very troublesome is that he's starting 2 Dolphins in his lineup.
Ooh.
Which is not a good look if you're starting 2 Dolphins, as we know how that offense is performing this year. Not great, but that's the stage that the spring chickens are at right now. So I guess that's what I'm watching is the Dolphins on his team. I hope Swan will be up at 8:30 on Sunday to be watching that one in Jacksonville or in London against Jacksonville. On Noel's team, we kind of know what we're going to get from McCaffrey if he plays, right?
Yeah.
We know what we're going to get from Mixon, like that 8 points or whatever. If he scores a touchdown, it'll be like 14. Good for him. Yep. So I'm curious now about this move to pick up Ricky Seals-Jones at tight end.
Yeah, that one is an interesting one for me, and to continue playing him even after Logan Thomas got injured and getting 6.6 points only.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see. I mean, it is the Chiefs. That could be just, it could have just been Noel being like, hey, here's the Chiefs defense. They give up 2 big plays to Dawson Knox last week at tight end. Maybe they'll do the same for Ricky Seals-Jones, but I don't hate the play at all. And I think it could be something big because, again, talk about it. This Chiefs defense is comparable to like Carlton or St. Olaf or something.
It is bad.
Yes, it is not good.
I like that pick. The guy I'm watching though is going to be Kadarius Toney. He is, this rookie guy had a big opportunity and punched it away. Literally,
doesn't it baffle you that the NFL players, when they get heated, they punch other players
in the helmet
who are wearing a helmet to protect them from blows much more significant than that?
It just doesn't make any sense to me. Why would you hurt your hand? You're a receiver. You need those.
You very much need those.
Like,
yes.
I don't know, man. This is an interesting play.
No, and I understand emotions run high. You're playing football at the highest level. I'm sure there's some pretty significant trash talk going on, but
yeah, playing against a divisional rival. Like I get it.
I would love to look like that's a question that I want to ask. Like if I ever talk to an NFL player, if I ever get that chance, that's the question that I will be asking is, so when you guys, a scuffle happens and there's players that are, emotions are running high, we got a physical fight going on. Do you guys think about the fact that you're punching a very hard surface that will hurt you in the hand? Or is it just like, or do you kind of see through that and you only see the person's face and that's what you're aiming for?
Doesn't matter. Rookies are weird, man. I don't know, but big opportunity with the rest of this roster being out basically, but getting limited by Mike Glennon being the current thrower to this young buck here. We'll have to see how this goes. If Toney doesn't step up, that could be the difference maker for Brennan to sneak in there and snag a dub here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be. You know what? I mean, I anticipate Null winning by 40, but who knows? I mean, Swan's team didn't Swan put up like 180 something last year at one point in a game. So
Brennan's had some good ones. He had 192 against you last year.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. So let's the volatility king here is Swan. So maybe that with the lows that have happened recently, maybe he just bounces back out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be exciting to watch here, but definitely going to be a fun match of the week. Good luck to all the teams this week, except for the dog sniffers. And we will see you next time.
Ciao.